Have you ever taken a meal out of the fridge, popped it in the microwave, and sat down thinking, at least I'm eating something? Maybe it was leftover soup, yesterday's chicken, or that frozen meal you picked up because cooking just felt like too much work. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. After 60, we start prioritizing convenience, and that often means relying more and more on cold-stored or frozen foods. But here's the big question. Is this habit slowly harming your body? As we age, our digestive system doesn't work quite the same way. Our metabolism slows, our gut becomes more sensitive, and our immune system isn't as quick to react. What you put into your body matters now more than ever. And while storing food in the fridge or freezer might seem harmless, or even smart, the truth is, not all cold-stored foods are created equal. Some could be making you feel sluggish, inflamed, or even disrupting your digestion without you realizing it. Today, we're going to talk about something most people overlook: how the food you're pulling out of the fridge or freezer may not be helping you the way you think. We'll explore what happens when food sits cold for too long, how your body reacts to it after 60, and what you can do to make your meals safer and more nourishing, without giving up on convenience. So, let me ask you, have you ever felt bloated or tired after eating leftovers? That dull, uncomfortable feeling in your stomach, like your food's just sitting there, not moving. That could be one of the first signs your body is struggling with cold-stored meals. Here's what's really going on. Cold-stored food, especially when reheated improperly, can lose its nutritional value. Vitamins like B and C degrade over time in the fridge. The longer food sits, the more it oxidizes. That leftover spinach casserole may have been packed with iron and vitamin C when you made it, but 2 days later, it's mostly calories and very little nourishment. And let's be honest, many of us forget how long something has been sitting in the fridge. It becomes a guessing game. Was that from Tuesday or last Friday? But there's another part we don't talk about enough: food safety. Cold storage slows bacteria growth, yes, but it doesn't stop it. After 60, your immune system isn't as sharp. What might have just caused a mild stomach ache when you were 30 can now knock you out for days. Foods like rice, potatoes, and even eggs can grow harmful bacteria like Bacillus cereus or Listeria if stored too long, even in the fridge. And once you reheat them, unless they're steaming hot all the way through, not just warm on the outside, you might be biting into more than you bargained for. Let's take rice, for example. A simple, everyday food, right? But when cooked rice cools down and sits too long, it becomes the perfect breeding ground for bacteria. Reheating it won't always kill the toxins those bacteria produce. The result? Nausea, diarrhea, fatigue, all of which can be far more dangerous for someone over 60 than they seem at first. And then there's the freezer. It's easy to assume that frozen food is totally safe. And while freezing does a better job of preserving food than refrigeration, the damage can come from what happens after, how we thaw and reheat. Ever taken a chicken breast out of the freezer, let it sit on the counter for hours, then threw it in a pan? That thawing process gives bacteria the perfect window to grow. And when we don't cook it thoroughly enough, those bacteria can stay right there, waiting. Even more importantly, our digestive fire, something Eastern medicine has talked about for centuries, weakens with age. Our bodies don't process cold or reheated food the way they used to. You might feel bloated, constipated, or just generally off, even if you're eating healthy. And you know what's often to blame? Leftovers from the fridge that have lost their vitality. In many traditional cultures, cold food was never served to elders because they believed warmth was the key to energy, digestion, and balance. Turns out, modern science is finally catching up. Now, I know what you might be thinking. So what do I eat then? I'm not cooking fresh meals 3 times a day. And you absolutely don't have to. There are smart ways to work around this, and we'll get into them. But first, it's important to understand what kinds of cold-stored foods are riskier than others. Processed frozen meals, especially the kind you find in those colorful boxes at the store, often contain preservatives, excess sodium, and unhealthy fats. These can worsen high blood pressure, increase inflammation, and weigh down your digestion. Even the ones labeled healthy can be misleading. They might be low-calorie but loaded with additives your body doesn't recognize. And when your liver and kidneys have to work harder to filter those out, guess what happens? You feel drained, foggy, and just not like yourself. On top of that, some packaging materials used in frozen foods, like certain plastics, can leach chemicals when microwaved. After 60, your body's ability to detoxify from those chemicals decreases. Over time, even small exposures can add up and affect your hormone balance, energy, and memory. Now, don't get me wrong, cold storage has its place. It can help prevent food waste, save time, and make life easier, all things that matter. But the key is in how we use it, how long we store, how we reheat, and what types of food we choose to store cold. These little choices make a big difference in how we feel each day. So, let's start with some gentle shifts that don't take much effort but can change the way your body feels after eating. First, start keeping track of how long food stays in your fridge. A simple sticky note or marker on the container with the date can help. Don't keep leftovers more than 3 days. That's a good rule of thumb. And when you reheat, do it thoroughly. If it's not steaming hot all the way through, keep heating. Also, try to cut down on how often you rely on prepackaged frozen meals. Even replacing 2 or 3 of them each week with something you made yourself, like a fresh soup or a batch of roasted vegetables, can make a difference. Your body will recognize the difference in freshness, and you'll likely feel lighter and more energized. Now that we've started exploring how cold-stored food affects our health and why it matters more after 60, let's keep going. There's another important area we need to talk about: how cold-stored food impacts your gut health and inflammation. We've all heard the phrase, trust your gut, right? But after 60, it's more than just a saying. Your gut becomes a central player in how you feel, from your energy and mood to how well your immune system fights off illness. And cold-stored food, especially if it's eaten often or improperly handled, can throw your gut off balance without you even noticing. Let's take a moment to talk about your microbiome, the billions of tiny bacteria living in your digestive system. These little guys are essential for breaking down food, absorbing nutrients, and keeping inflammation under control. But they're also sensitive. The kinds of food you eat every day, especially processed or reheated meals, can either help them thrive or send them spiraling. When we rely on cold-stored or frozen meals, we often miss out on the fiber, natural enzymes, and probiotic-rich foods that keep our gut happy. A fresh salad with olive oil and lemon, a warm bowl of oats with chia seeds, even something as simple as yogurt with a few berries. These nourish your gut. But reheated pasta from last night, frozen pizza, or those microwave dinners? They offer little to no support for your gut bacteria. In fact, the additives and preservatives they contain can actually wipe out some of those helpful microbes. And here's where it starts to snowball. Once your gut bacteria get out of balance, a condition called dysbiosis, you might begin to feel more sluggish, experience more bloating, irregular bowel movements, or even skin issues. And most people don't connect it to what they had for dinner 3 nights ago, but the link is real. Another problem is inflammation. Now, inflammation isn't always a bad thing. Your body uses it to heal injuries and fight infections. But when it's chronic, meaning it sticks around too long, it becomes harmful. After 60, our bodies are already more prone to low-grade chronic inflammation. This silent fire can contribute to arthritis, heart disease, and even memory problems. Cold-stored food that's reheated or processed can fuel this fire. Here's how. Every time food is cooled and then reheated, especially proteins like meat, it goes through structural changes. These changes can create compounds that are harder to digest and more likely to irritate the gut lining. Over time, this irritation can trigger an inflammatory response. And again, it may not feel dramatic. You might just feel off, stiffer in the joints, or more tired than usual. Another important point is blood sugar. Many frozen and cold-stored meals, especially the packaged kind, are packed with hidden sugars and refined carbs. Even something that doesn't taste sweet, like a frozen stir-fry, can spike your blood sugar if it's full of sauces or starches. And blood sugar spikes are dangerous after 60. They can lead to energy crashes, mood swings, and even increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't about cutting out all cold or frozen foods. It's about being mindful of which ones you're eating and how often. For example, freezing homemade soup that you made from fresh ingredients? That's totally fine. In fact, it's a great way to preserve nutrients if you store and reheat it properly. But depending every day on store-bought frozen meals or eating the same leftovers all week, that's where the risks start to build. And here's something else no one talks about: taste and texture. When you eat fresh food, like a just steamed vegetable or a piece of grilled fish, your taste buds light up. Your brain registers freshness, and your body responds with better digestion and more satisfaction. But when food has been sitting in the fridge, microwaved, maybe cooled again, it starts to lose that spark. It's not just about nutrients anymore. Your senses, smell, taste, and sight, all play a role in digestion. If food looks and tastes dull, your digestive system doesn't prepare the way it should. Saliva, stomach acid, enzymes, they all get reduced. And that means slower digestion, more bloating, and less energy. So what can you do? One simple step is to make smaller portions. Instead of cooking huge batches that last all week, try cooking just enough for 1 or 2 meals. That way, you're not relying on days-old food, and it stays fresher. Another idea? Batch prep ingredients rather than full meals. For example, wash and chop veggies, marinate proteins on mains, or cook a pot of brown rice. Then assemble meals fresh using those building blocks. It takes the same amount of time but gives your body fresher food. If you must eat leftovers, try to reheat them on the stove or in the oven rather than the microwave. This helps heat them more evenly and avoid the cold spots where bacteria can hide. And if you're using the microwave, always cover the food and stir halfway through. That ensures the food gets hot all the way through, not just on the edges. Also, try balancing cold-stored food with something fresh. If you're reheating soup, add a handful of freshly chopped parsley or squeeze in some lemon juice right before eating. These small additions can restore some of the lost nutrients and flavor. Your body will notice the difference. Even your beverages matter. Cold-stored drinks like sugary juices or those healthy iced teas can contribute to the same cycle: high sugar, low nutrition, more inflammation. Instead, sip on warm water with lemon, herbal teas, or room temperature infused water with cucumber or mint. Your digestion will thank you. And remember, your body is always talking to you. After a meal, notice how you feel. Are you tired, bloated, gassy, or light, comfortable, and energized? Your gut gives you feedback every time you eat. All you have to do is listen. Once you start tuning in, you'll begin to see that what feels convenient now might actually be costing you energy, comfort, and long-term health. But don't worry, it's never too late to make small, meaningful changes. In fact, that's exactly where we're headed next. Because understanding the emotional side of food, the comfort, the memories, the habits, is just as important as the physical side. Let's continue and look at how food patterns, cravings, and emotional choices around cold-stored meals might be affecting your well-being in ways you haven't even considered. Sometimes, food isn't just food, it's comfort, it's routine, it's what we do when we're tired or lonely or just trying to make the day a little easier. And after 60, those feelings show up more often than we like to admit. Maybe the kids are busy with their own lives. Maybe you've lost a partner or a close friend. Or maybe it's just that making a big meal every day feels like more trouble than it's worth. So, the fridge becomes your solution. You open it, see a container of leftovers, or maybe a frozen meal tucked in the corner, and think, that'll do. No mess, no fuss, just heat and eat. And in that moment, it feels like a win. But when this becomes the default, day after day, your body begins to reflect those choices. It's not about guilt, it's about awareness. See, emotional eating doesn't always look like grabbing a tub of ice cream after a bad day. It can also look like eating food that doesn't serve your body, just because it's easy, or because it fills the silence, or gives you a sense of control. And over time, that habit, as subtle and quiet as it is, can steal your vitality, one meal at a time. Here's the thing no one talks about. Your relationship with food changes after 60. You're no longer eating for growth or performance. You're eating for maintenance, healing, and joy. Every bite matters more. Every choice carries more weight. So, if the majority of your meals come from a cold container or the microwave, your body may not be getting the care and respect it truly needs and deserves. But the solution doesn't mean cooking like a gourmet chef. It doesn't mean spending hours in the kitchen or throwing out everything in your freezer. It starts with small, loving decisions. Choosing one meal a day to make fresh, adding one vibrant ingredient to something that's been stored, being present while you eat, even if you're eating alone. That simple shift, eating with intention, can do wonders for how food nourishes your body. When you sit down with a warm bowl of freshly made soup, or you take a moment to enjoy a crisp apple with a handful of nuts, your body reacts differently. Digestion improves, energy lifts, your mood stabilizes, and suddenly, eating feels like a celebration again, not a chore. And let's talk about the kitchen for a moment. For many of us, the kitchen has become a cold, quiet place. But you can bring life back into it, not with grand meals, but with small rituals. Maybe it's putting on music while you chop vegetables. Maybe it's lighting a candle or opening the window while something simmers. These little moments of presence reconnect you with your food, and that connection makes a real difference. And here's a gentle reminder, you don't need to do it all on your own. If standing and chopping feels like too much some days, look for support. There are local services, community programs, or even friends who might love to share a meal or cook together. Food can be social, even if it's just one shared lunch a week. That connection feeds your heart just as much as your stomach. And if you do need to rely on cold-stored food sometimes, and let's be real, we all do, then give your body a boost alongside it. Add a fresh side. Drink warm water instead of something cold. Sit down, take a breath, chew slowly. These little things may seem small, but they tell your body, I'm paying attention, you matter. Because you do. You've spent a lifetime taking care of others, working hard, showing up, and now, more than ever, it's time to turn that care inward, starting with the food on your plate. Let's quickly bring everything together. The convenience of cold-stored food is undeniable. It saves time, money, and effort. But the hidden costs, lost nutrients, increased inflammation, poor digestion, and emotional disconnect can add up fast, especially after 60. The good news is, none of this is set in stone. You're in control. Start small. Maybe today you make one fresh meal, or you add lemon and herbs to those leftovers. Maybe tomorrow you skip the frozen dinner and make something from scratch. Even something simple like scrambled eggs with spinach. Each step builds momentum, and with each step, your body will respond. You'll feel lighter, sharper, more alive. And when you do, I want you to notice that feeling. Remember it, because that's your body thanking you. That's your body saying, yes, this is what I need. You've got so much life still to live, so much joy, so many little moments that deserve your full energy and presence. And food, when chosen and treated with care, is one of the most powerful tools you have to get there. So let me leave you with this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Every fresh choice you make is a gift to your future self, one that says, I'm not done yet. I want to feel good. I want to thrive. And that's exactly what you deserve. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share what changes you're making or what you've learned about your body through food. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like and consider subscribing. We've got so many more helpful, healing conversations ahead. Take care of yourself. Eat with love. And here's to living your most vibrant, energized life at any age.